We need someone with more executive experience, Uncle Richard said, adjusting his Rolex with practiced indifference. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Harrison Industries' boardroom, casting long shadows across the mahogany table where the family council had gathered. I'm Michael Harrison, 35 years old, and for the past decade, I've been running the small logistics division of our family's century-old manufacturing empire. At least, that's what they thought. They had no idea that I was also the founder and CEO of Summit Global, their largest competitor, operating under the name Michael Summit. Michael's division has shown consistent growth, my father, Thomas Harrison, argued weakly. He was the only one who partially understood my potential, but even he didn't know the full story. 7% growth in logistics is hardly revolutionary, sneered my cousin James, their chosen golden boy. My marketing initiatives have driven 30% growth in our consumer division. Easy to show growth when you're cooking the books, I thought, but I kept my face neutral. I discovered James' creative accounting months ago through Summit Global's due diligence process. The CEO position requires broader vision. Aunt Patricia chimed in. James has his MBA from Harvard. I suppressed a smile, thinking about the advanced manufacturing facilities I'd built across 3 continents. Summit Global had revolutionized the industry, while Harrison Industries clung to outdated methods and bloated management structures. I appreciate the consideration, I said mildly, gathering my papers. I'm sure James will do an excellent job. That's very gracious, Michael, Uncle Richard said, relief evident in his voice. You'll continue to have full autonomy over logistics, of course. Full autonomy over their smallest division. How generous. Meanwhile, Summit Global's market cap had just surpassed Harrison Industries last quarter. I'd started Summit Global 7 years ago after watching the family council repeatedly dismiss innovation in favor of tradition. Using the knowledge gained from running the logistics division and my engineering doctorate they all ignored, I'd built something entirely new. The family never questioned my modest lifestyle or why I worked late. They assumed I was trying to prove myself through the logistics division. In reality, I was building a manufacturing empire that would revolutionize the industry. We'll announce James' appointment next week, Uncle Richard continued. The shareholders will be pleased to see a Harvard MBA taking the reins. The shareholders, if they only knew what was coming. Summit Global had been quietly acquiring Harrison Industries stock through various shell companies for the past 3 years. By next week, we'd own a controlling interest. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, my wife and Summit Global's chief operating officer. Acquisition complete. 51% secured. Sarah was the only person who knew both sides of my life. We'd met at MIT during my doctorate program, and she'd been instrumental in building Summit Global. The family council had never bothered to meet her, assuming she was just a high school teacher based on a passing comment I'd made about her passion for education. Michael? My father's voice brought me back to the present. Would you join me for lunch? We walked to his favorite steakhouse, a wood-paneled establishment that had served Boston's business elite for generations. I tried to advocate for you, he said once we were seated. But the council. It's fine, Dad, I'd assured him. Really. He studied me carefully. You've never seemed interested in power plays or politics. Always focused on your division, your innovations. If he only knew. Summit Global was about to announce breakthrough technology that would make Harrison Industries' manufacturing processes obsolete. I believe in building things that matter, I said carefully. The rest is just noise. James will expect you to report to him now, he warned. He's already talking about restructuring your division. Is he? I checked my watch. 24 hours until the Summit Global announcement. That should be interesting. Back at my office, my Harrison Industries office, I reviewed the final details of tomorrow's announcement. Summit Global would reveal not just the controlling interest in Harrison Industries, but also a revolutionary manufacturing platform. My phone buzzed again. Sarah, press release approved. Markets will be interesting tomorrow. I smiled, remembering all the family council meetings where they dismissed my suggestions about modernizing our manufacturing processes. Too risky, they'd said. We've always done it this way. Meanwhile, Summit Global had developed automated manufacturing systems that reduced costs by 60% while improving quality. Our factories were the most advanced in the industry, and our technology licensing alone generated more revenue than all of Harrison Industries divisions combined. The next morning, I arrived early at Harrison Industries headquarters. The family council was holding an emergency meeting. They'd gotten wind that something big was happening with the stock. Someone's buying massive blocks of shares, James announced as I walked in. We need to lock down our position. Who would dare? Aunt Patricia demanded. The Harrison family has controlled this company for a century. I sat quietly, watching Uncle Richard bark orders into his phone. The family owned only 30% of the company now. They'd been diluting their position for years to fund their lavish lifestyles. Might be Summit Global, one of the board members suggested. They've been expanding aggressively. That upstart company, James scoffed. They got lucky with a few patents. They don't have the heritage, the connections. My phone buzzed. The press release was going live. Every screen in the boardroom suddenly lit up with notifications. CNBC, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, all carrying the same headline. Summit Global acquires controlling interest in Harrison Industries. Revolutionary merger planned. The room erupted in chaos. Impossible. Who authorized this? Who runs Summit Global? I stood up quietly, straightening my tie. That would be me. The silence was deafening. What? James whispered. I clicked on the teleconference screen, and Sarah's face appeared alongside our executive team. Good morning, Harrison Industries Council, she said crisply. I believe you know my husband, Michael Summit, or as you know him, Michael Harrison. Uncle Richard's face went pale. You're Summit Global. Founded it 7 years ago, I confirmed, while running your small logistics division. But you live in that modest house, drive a normal car. Aunt Patricia stammered. Because I was investing everything in building something that matters, I replied, not maintaining appearances. The patents, the automated manufacturing. James was starting to understand. All those innovations we rejected became the foundation of Summit Global, I finished. While you were focused on your Harvard MBA, I was revolutionizing manufacturing. My father sat back in his chair, and I saw something that looked like pride cross his face. As of this morning, Sarah continued from the screen, Summit Global owns 51% of Harrison Industries. We'll be implementing our advanced manufacturing systems across all facilities. You can't do this, James shouted. This company is our heritage. This company needs to evolve, I said firmly, and now it will. I looked around the room at their shocked faces. The board meeting to approve the merger is scheduled for noon. I suggest you all review the proposal carefully. The future of manufacturing isn't about family names or Harvard MBAs. It's about innovation, efficiency, and building something that matters. The next 3 hours were a blur of chaos, legal consultations, and frantic attempts by the family council to understand what had happened. I sat calmly in my father's old office, now technically mine, reviewing merger documents while the storm raged around me. Sarah arrived at 11:30, striding confidently into the building that had been the Harrison family's throne for generations. She wore a crisp charcoal suit that probably cost more than the modest car I drove to maintain my cover. The security guards, who had known me for years as the quiet logistics guy, stared in confusion as she walked straight to the executive floor. The Summit Global Board is ready, she announced upon entering the office. How's the family taking it? About as well as expected, I replied, gesturing toward the raised voices coming from the conference room next door. You can't be serious about this merger. James's voice carried through the walls. We don't even know anything about Summit Global's operations. Actually, I said, walking into the conference room with Sarah, you do. Every innovation I proposed for Harrison Industries over the past 7 years, Summit Global implemented them all. Successfully. The family council turned to stare at us. Uncle Richard's face was still ashen. Aunt Patricia looked like she'd swallowed something sour, and James was practically vibrating with suppressed rage. My father, surprisingly, was smiling. The logistics division, he said thoughtfully. It wasn't just a division to you, was it? It was a laboratory. I nodded. Every process improvement, every efficiency gain. I tested them all in miniature through the division. When the family council rejected them for the larger company, I built my own. With our family's knowledge. James accused. You stole our insights. Sarah laughed, a sharp professional sound. Harrison Industries rejected every patent we now hold. We have the documentation of each rejection, signed by you personally, James. The noon meeting will proceed as scheduled, I announced. I suggest you all review these. I distributed tablets containing detailed presentations about Summit Global's operations and the merger plan. The next 30 minutes were silent except for occasional gasps as the family council realized the full scope of what they'd missed. These profit margins, Uncle Richard whispered. They're impossible. They're standard for our facilities, Sarah corrected. Automated manufacturing, AI-driven logistics, zero-waste processes. Everything Michael tried to implement here. But the costs, Aunt Patricia scrolled frantically through the numbers. Were covered by my inheritance, I said quietly. The one you all thought I was wasting on tinkering in the logistics division. More silence as they continued reading. The noon meeting will include a video tour of our main facility, Sarah added. I think you'll find it enlightening. James slammed his tablet down. This is a hostile takeover. No, I corrected. This is salvation. Harrison Industries' market share has dropped 40% in 5 years. Your manufacturing costs are triple the industry standard. Without this merger, you'd be bankrupt within 18 months. That's not possible, Uncle Richard protested. Our analysts are as outdated as your methods, Sarah interrupted. We have the real numbers. All of them. My father stood up slowly. You've been planning this for years. 7 years, 3 months, and 12 days, I confirmed. Ever since the family council laughed at my proposal for modernizing our manufacturing processes. And now you own us, James spat. No, I said firmly. Now we had the opportunity to build something extraordinary. Together, if you're willing to adapt. The merger meeting began precisely at noon. The Harrison Industries board members sat on one side, Summit Global's on the other. The family council huddled in their usual seats, looking lost without their usual control. The first order of business, Sarah began, is the facility tour. The screens lit up with live feeds from Summit Global's main manufacturing plant. Sleek robots moved with precise efficiency. AI systems coordinated complex operations. Workers operated advanced interfaces, overseeing processes that would have required hundreds of manual laborers in Harrison Industries plants. This is one of 12 facilities, I explained, all operating at 95% efficiency. 0 workplace injuries in the past 3 years. Employee satisfaction rates above 90%. And the workers? My father asked. What happens to them under automation? Are retrained, Sarah answered. We invest heavily in employee education. Everyone from line workers to management receives continuous training on our systems. At Harrison Industries salaries, Aunt Patricia asked skeptically. Higher, I said, because they're more productive. Our profit per employee is 6 times the industry standard. The presentation continued, showing how the merger would transform Harrison Industries' operations. By the end, even James had stopped protesting, staring at the potential numbers with undisguised longing. "We'll put this to a shareholder vote," Uncle Richard finally said, grasping at his last strand of control. "Already done," Sarah smiled. "Proxy votes are in. The merger is approved." "How?" James started. "Summit Global controls 51%. I reminded him. "And we've spent the past year convincing other major shareholders. They've seen our numbers. They want this." "So what happens now?" my father asked quietly. I stood up, buttoning my jacket. "Now, we build. Anyone who wants to be part of that is welcome. Anyone who doesn't, well, your shares are worth considerably more today than they were yesterday." "And the family council?" Aunt Patricia asked. "Will be dissolved," I said firmly. "Merit, not bloodline, will determine leadership positions." "You can't," James began. "Already done," Sarah interrupted. The shareholder vote included governance changes. The meeting ended with a whimper, not a bang. The family council filed out, looking shell-shocked. Only my father remained behind. "That modest house," he said thoughtfully, "the one we all thought showed your lack of ambition, is one of 30 properties Summit Global owns in the area," I confirmed. "I chose it because it was close to both headquarters." He laughed, a genuine, delighted sound I hadn't heard in years. "All this time, we thought we were teaching you about business." "You did," I said sincerely. "You taught me exactly what needed to change." The first month after the merger announcement was a study in controlled chaos. Harrison Industries stock soared as the market digested the implications of Summit Global's technology integration. The family council members reacted in varying ways. Some resigned immediately, cashing out their shares, while others struggled to maintain the perceived control. I moved my office to the top floor, not out of pride, but practicality. The integration required constant oversight, and Sarah and I needed a command center. The old mahogany furniture was replaced with modern workstations. The traditional oil paintings of Harrison patriarchs were moved to the company museum, replaced by interactive screens showing real-time factory metrics. "James just quit," Sarah announced one morning, walking in with her tablet. Sent a rather strongly worded email to the entire company. "How strongly worded?" I asked, not looking up from my production reports. "Strongly enough that legal wants to review it. He's not taking the new merit-based system well." I wasn't surprised. James's first performance review under the new system had revealed what I'd long known. His supposed successes were mostly creative accounting and family connections. My father, on the other hand, had surprised everyone. After the initial shock wore off, he'd thrown himself into learning the new systems. At 65, he was taking coding classes to better understand our automated processes. "Your father's requested access to the R&D division," Sarah mentioned. "He has some interesting ideas about integrating traditional manufacturing expertise with our AI systems." "Approve it," I said immediately. "He sees what we're building now." The transformation of Harrison Industries facilities began immediately. The first factory conversion was completed in 3 weeks, a process that would have taken months under the old system. Production efficiency up 40%, Sarah reported during our weekly executive meeting. Worker satisfaction has increased by 35%, and we're already seeing cost savings of 25%. Uncle Richard, who had chosen to stay on as a regular board member, looked stunned. In 3 weeks. "This is just the beginning," I explained. "Once the AI learning systems have more data from our integrated operations, we'll see even better results." The family's social circle was having trouble adjusting to the new reality. The country club buzz was all about the hostile takeover by the ungrateful nephew. They couldn't comprehend that I'd built something larger than their entire world while they weren't paying attention. Mrs. Worthington asked me if we're still attending the annual charity gala. Sarah mentioned over dinner at home. Apparently, they're worried about losing the Harrison family's traditional donation. Tell her our corporate giving program has tripled, I replied. But it's now based on measurable impact, not social connections. The old guard's resistance crumbled quickly when faced with results. By the end of the second month, our integrated factories were outperforming all industry standards. The Harrison Industries name, once synonymous with old money and tradition, was becoming known for innovation. Aunt Patricia was the next to adapt, surprisingly. She'd always had a head for numbers when she wasn't constrained by family politics. One morning, she appeared in my office with a detailed analysis of potential efficiency improvements. I've been studying the Summit Global systems, she said, somewhat sheepishly. They're extraordinary. I have some thoughts about applying them to our Asian markets. I looked through her proposal. It was good, very good. Have you shown this to Sarah? I wasn't sure I should. You're not family here anymore, Aunt Patricia. You're a potential contributor. Your ideas will be evaluated on merit, not name. She straightened her spine. Then yes, I'd like to present this to the executive team. The transformation wasn't just technological. The company culture was changing. The old hierarchies based on family connections and social status were replaced by a genuine meritocracy. Young engineers found themselves leading projects over former executives. Factory workers who showed aptitude were fast-tracked into management programs. Employee retention is up 60%. Sarah reported 3 months in. Training program participation has doubled. We're getting acquisition offers for our management systems now. My father had become one of our strongest advocates. He'd mastered the basics of our AI systems and was now leading a team developing hybrid approaches that combine traditional craftsmanship with automated precision. You know what I realized? He said during one of our now regular lunch meetings. We were so busy protecting what we had, we forgot to build anything new. James made one last attempt at resistance, trying to organize a shareholder revolt. It failed spectacularly when our quarterly results were announced. Summit Global's integration had increased profitability by 80%. Your cousin's requested a meeting, Sarah told me one evening. Says he wants to discuss reconciliation. The meeting was brief. James had finally reviewed the actual numbers, without his creative accounting. I didn't understand, he admitted. What you were building, it's beyond anything we imagined. It's what I tried to show the family council for years, I replied. You were all too focused on maintaining control to see the possibilities. Is there still a place for me here? There's a place for anyone willing to learn and contribute, I said. But not because of your name. He nodded slowly. I'd like to start in the training program. From the beginning. The old Harrison Industries was gone. In its place was something new. A company that combines Summit Global's innovation with a century of manufacturing heritage. The family name remained, but it now stood for progress, not tradition. You know what the board said today? Sarah asked as we walked through our newest factory facility. They want to know when you're going to reveal your next big secret. I laughed. Tell them the secret was there all along. They just had to be willing to see it. Around us, the factory hummed with efficient precision. Workers and machines collaborated seamlessly. The future we built was already here, and it was better than anyone had imagined. Except, perhaps, for that quiet logistics guy who had seen it all along. 1 year after the merger, I stood in the renovated Harrison Industries auditorium, preparing to address our annual shareholder meeting. The company had transformed beyond even my optimistic projections. The stock price had tripled. Our integrated manufacturing system was being licensed worldwide. The Harrison Summit Innovation Center, our new R&D facility, was attracting the brightest minds in technology and manufacturing. Ready? Sarah asked, joining me backstage. She just finished presenting our financial results, numbers that had left the audience stunned. Almost hard to believe how much has changed in a year, I replied, adjusting my tie. The auditorium was packed, a mix of old and new. Traditional investors sat alongside tech entrepreneurs. Factory workers who'd become project leaders shared rows with former executives who'd learned to adapt. My father sat in the front row, tablet in hand, probably tweaking his latest AI integration proposal. Beside him, Aunt Patricia was discussing efficiency metrics with one of our young engineers. Even James was there, having recently completed our management training program and truly earned, a position in operations. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, taking the stage. A year ago, we promised to build something extraordinary. Today, I want to show you what that means. The screens behind me lit up with live feeds from our facilities worldwide. Seamless integration of human expertise and automated precision. Workers who had become tech specialists. Production lines that had become innovation centers. But this isn't about numbers or technology, I continued. It's about transformation. About proving that tradition and innovation aren't enemies. They're partners. I saw Uncle Richard nodding slowly. He finally understood, becoming one of our strongest advocates for technological integration in traditional manufacturing circles. We've created something unique, I said. Not just a merger of companies, but a merger of philosophies. The Harrison legacy of manufacturing excellence combined with Summit Global's technological innovation. The presentation continued with our plans for the future, new facilities, expanded research programs, advanced training systems. But the real story was in the faces watching me. The pride in my father's eyes. The genuine interest from former skeptics. The excitement from employees who now had real opportunities for growth. Next quarter, we'll begin Phase 2, I announced. The Harrison Summit Global Institute for Manufacturing Innovation will open its doors. Free advanced training for any employee who wants to learn. University partnerships for research and development. A true investment in the future of manufacturing. The applause was genuine, not the polite golf claps of old shareholder meetings, but real enthusiasm for what we'd built and what was coming. After the meeting, my father approached with a familiar glint in his eye. Phase 2, he asked. You've been planning this all along, haven't you? I smiled. There's always a next phase, Dad. That's what the family never understood. You don't protect success. You build on it. Sarah joined us, tablet in hand as always. The Institute's first class is already oversubscribed. Turns out people want to learn when you give them a real chance. And the family, my father asked carefully, is welcome to participate, I replied. Just like anyone else, based on merit and commitment, not names or traditions. Looking around the auditorium, at the mixing of old and new, at the energy and purpose that had replaced stagnant tradition, I remembered that first dismissive family council meeting. They'd thought the quiet logistics guy lacked vision, when in fact, my vision had simply been too big for them to see. You know what the best part is? Sarah said later as we walked through our original factory. Now a model of integrated manufacturing. Nobody talks about the family company anymore. They just talk about what we're building. And that really was the point. We transformed not just a company, but an entire way of thinking. Proved that real leadership isn't about protecting what you have, but about building what comes next. The low-level manager they dismissed had built the future while they weren't looking. And now, that future was just beginning. Ready for Phase 3? Sarah asked with a knowing smile. There's always a Phase 3, I replied. Innovation never stops. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the factory, I could still hear the echo of that family council meeting, now just a reminder of how far we'd come and how far we had yet to go.